What do you know about a man called Scaramanga?
The man with the golden gun. He always uses a golden bullet.
This trinket was sent with a note requesting special delivery to you.
Morris, welcome to the very special edition of Film Talk. We're talking James Bond.
Yes, we are.
So, who is your favourite James Bond? Who's the best James Bond?
Who is the best and who's my favourite?
Yes.
May not necessarily be the same.
That's a good question, yeah. Why didn't I think of that?
Who's my favourite? Well, my personal favourite is Roger Moore. I think it's one of those, it's a bit like who's your favourite Doctor Who, and I think it's who you first see and who you grow up with that becomes your favourite. So in Doctor Who it was Tom Baker. In Bond it was Roger Moore. I remember being off school in the holidays and being able to go to the cinema in the days when they'd show a Bond film, but in the afternoon or immediately before they'd show the one before, and I was able to go at 11 or 12 years old, and I saw for the first time on the big screen, I saw The Man with the Golden Gun, and immediately afterwards it was The Spy Who Loved Me. Wow. And I remember sitting there at the ABC in Hendon, 45 pence it costs, and I saw both films, and I thought, this is fantastic. I loved it. I love the action, I love the humour, I just love the whole size of it. I hadn't seen many films on the big screen, and I loved it. And so I was always a great fan of Roger Moore. I'm not saying some of the later Roger Moore Bonds were some of the best films, but I just think as a character, I liked it. I always like people that take things seriously but not too seriously. I don't mean Roger Moore as an actor, I mean the character. Although Roger Moore, I think, was the same. He never took himself too seriously, which is lovely in an actor, and I've, like yourself, had the opportunity to meet him. And so, yeah, I think for me, my favourite Bond is Roger Moore.
But is he the best Bond, though? So what's the difference between a favourite and a best? Well, obviously, I know the difference in the description of the words, but
I think that...
Because I have to go with Roger Moore, because he was the
Yes.
first I saw, like
Yes.
you say.
Yes.
The Spy Who Loved Me was the first one I saw on
Yeah.
the big screen.
Yeah.
And that had quite an impact on me. So I kind of see Roger Moore as my favourite in that sense.
Yes.
But, you know, the Daniel Craig performance is astonishing.
Yeah, it is. I like those films, and I've watched those recent films with my elder son. He hasn't seen the early ones. We've got the whole lot on Blu-ray, as probably most of the country have. And we've watched the later ones, and they're great films, but they come at a time of films like the Bourne films and the Jack Reacher films and those types of modern-day thrillers with excellent effects, with excellent action, with just everything crisp and fast. And it's a different type of cinematic experience, perhaps, to 40, 50 years ago. And I think very often it's the action and the big scenes that lead the actors and not necessarily the other way around. And we watched Skyfall recently, and it blew me away, and yet... did it give me the same warmth that perhaps The Spy Who Loved Me did when I saw it in the cinema? And there's those shots there of Egypt, and Barry Leon comes in, and you've got Barbara Bach, and you've got all this just wonderful warmth. The answer is no, it doesn't do it for me in that way. As an action film, yeah, fantastic. Love them. I still think Sean Connery is probably as near to you can get as to the character, and I think they did very well when they picked him. He was unknown at the time. But for me, it's a bit like a regenerating Doctor Who. Tom Baker wasn't the first, but he was my favourite. And Roger Moore wasn't the first, but he was my favourite.
Turning our attention to the gadget. I mean, a James Bond movie of old wouldn't be a James Bond movie without tremendous gadgets. And even the newer ones with Daniel Craig still have some pretty sexy gadgets. But your favourite gadget, and perhaps the best and most intriguing gadget?
The gadget I'd most like to have would be the magnetic watch that was in
Live and Let Die.
Live and Let Die, where he was able to get the zip down on Madeline Smith's dress. Yeah. Madeline would not mind me saying that because we're good friends. But probably the best gadget. I think, as I said before, one of the first films I saw was The Spy Who Loved Me, and seeing cars going underwater was pretty amazing. I mean, nowadays you see things like Top Gear and you see these sort of inflatables and whatever they call them.
Absolutely, yeah.
They go under anything. That's quite, we could probably do that. But to take out, which I think it was a TL7, was it a TL7? But to take
Lotus Esprit.
The Lotus Esprit.
Lotus Esprit.
To see the car and it go underwater. I know it's all smoke and mirrors. I know it's all tricks. I know it's all gadgets because it's all put together because that's what we do in this industry. But it was pretty cool. A car going all the way along, going under the water, coming out the other side, and all these people looking. So I think for the sheer spectacle of its time and the surprise of it all, I think a car going underwater, I think would be the Lotus Esprit from The Spy Who Loved Me.
Super. All right. What about the villains, though? There's been a lot of villains over the years.
Yes.
All seem to want world domination, or
Yes.
heaven knows what else. But is there a particular villain that stands out as?
Well, again, no one had a voice like Charles Gray, who I think played Blofeld. I mean, he had the most amazing voice. It was like velvet, and you really feared him. And in fact, his voice was used for Jack Hawkins. When Jack Hawkins had the throat cancer, lost his voice in the late 60s, and for the next 5 years until he died, he still appeared in films, and Charles Gray did Jack Hawkins' voice.
When Eight Bells Toll.
Correct. And Monte Carlo or Bust, and Theatre of Death and films like that. But my favourite one is Scaramanga.
He plays a deadly game, and the stakes are sky high.
Christopher Lee, the man with the golden gun. Not because he's got 3 nipples. That's just
Who
by
hasn't?
coincidence.
Who hasn't?
Well, I haven't at the moment. But it's just, you know what it is? The thing about Christopher Lee, and everyone will tell you, whatever film he was in, whether it was the biggest of the budgets or the lowest of the budgets, he took it really, really seriously. Right? He really did. And you've been told that by people who appeared in Hammer horror films with him and so on.
Absolutely, yes.
And there he is. He's suddenly in Bond. Now, it's in the early 70s, biggest film franchise, before all the other big ones, Lord of the Rings and everything, biggest film franchise in the world. And there he is, standing there with the little one, not Odd Job, that's from Carry On Screaming, with the little one that was played by Hervé Villechaize.
Knick-Knack.
Knick-Knack. But no, he was the one. Christopher Lee as Scaramanga. I really feared him. I thought he was evil, but in a way that was believable. A lot of them towards the end, they get so over the top, it's not believable. Scaramanga, man with the golden gun, Christopher Lee.
Fantastic. Okay, so we've done favourite Bond, we've done the villains, we've done the gadgets. Is there a bit of music, a Bond music, that stands out, a theme song or a piece of music?
I think he'd be hard pushed to beat Shirley Bassey singing Diamonds Are Forever. For me, it's really, really strong. In fact, it's probably stronger than the film, for me.
It wasn't a great film, was it?
Not the greatest comeback for Sean Connery. It was still good. It just seemed a bit more violent, a bit more harsh, and it didn't quite feel the same. But it's a really powerful piece of music. And for me, as I say, I think it's probably as strong as the film. So I would go for Shirley Bassey singing Diamonds Are Forever.
And if you had to select one of the Bond films to date, that's the real standout, it's the favourite, it's the best, whatever. I mean, is there a difference between favourite and best Bond film? I don't know.
No, I don't think it is. I think for me, favourite and best of film is the same, because favourite and best almost implies I become a film critic, and my film critic hat says it's got to be Spectre, but for me, personally, it's got to be, I don't know, Goldfinger. I think for me, favourite and best when it comes to film itself it is the same. So I think I'm going to go for is it going to be Man with the Golden Gun, or is it going to be The Spy Who Loved Me? I'm going to go Man with the Golden Gun.
Wow.
Yep, I'm going to go with an early one.
A terrific film, very close to the book too.
Yeah.
But wasn't the biggest box office.
No, and I think
they were a bit worried about Roger as Bond.
Well, of course, he did the first one in '73. They used to do them a year, 2 years apart. With him, they wanted to get a couple out quite quickly. So you had Live and Let Die and Man with the Golden Gun with 73, 74. It was a bit of a rush, perhaps. And so they just tinkered around and waited. And I think Spy Love Me was 77, so they waited. And they do that nowadays. They actually wait a lot longer and they bring them out. It's much harder to make nowadays, I would assume. Although we say that, but actually technology being what it is, it was probably just as hard 40 years ago. I remember speaking to one of the producers several years ago when I was doing a book about Palmer Studios, and they said, imagine 30 years ago taking a crew of 300 people out to a location in the middle of nowhere with no mobile phones, no ways to communicate. So it's probably just as hard to make the films then. But for me, as I say, I think what I like about Man with the Golden Gun is I like Roger's performance. I like Christopher Lee, Britt Ekland's in it. It's fun, and it's got a good baddie in it. So I'll go for Man with the Golden Gun.
So whether you're into the latest releases or prefer to go behind the scenes with some of our greatest filmmakers, please do subscribe to our channel. We post new videos every week, so there's always plenty to see. Here's a couple more from Rabbit and Snail that you might want to check out. Thanks for watching. See you next time.